And right, so let's share my browser first of all. So we have a, a tool, a script, whatever you want to call it, called Tanuki-Stan. Now, Tanuki-Stan uses Python. It grabs a load of issues from GitLab using the API. Request issues. So here you go. Specifically ones that have not got any of these labels. So they haven't already been triaged and they haven't got a group assigned to them. So it grabs a load of issues and essentially uses some kind of machine learning, like basically every so often pulls in loads of issues with labels on and then sort of tokenizes the descriptions and the titles of those issues to create some kind of magic algorithm or something that can then classify new issues. And this was created um, over 3 years ago, or about 3 years ago by the looks of it. So before the sort of more advanced LLMs and generative AI and Duo and GPT and the likes, etc. So it's worked really well. It's been awesome, but we have certain things like the fact that you have to train it, and nobody really has the time to retrain it. Every time GitLab decide to have a little bit of a sort of restructure, reorg, and change their group names, then all the labeling breaks, and there's just a bunch of issues along those lines. So um, it came up in conversation a number of times recently, and I thought, hell, let's have a poke around with what we can do with Anthropic. Or I don't really fully understand the details because I think Anthropic is maybe the name of a wrapper, and underneath that you then have different models. So, but anyway, I started having a play at the weekend. V2, that was it. My new project, Tanuki-Stan V2. Um, and yeah, I was seeing how terrible I could be at prompt engineering, and basically created this a little bit bigger. I should just share it in Visual Studio Code actually, because I'm going to refactor it. Hopefully during today's session, just to be a little bit more standard, whatever you want to call it, nice Ruby, etc. But yeah, so a prompt that says based on the following issue details with a project and a group and a title and description and some existing labels. Select the most relevant labels from these predefined lists, one from each, noticing the typo there as we go. So let me switch to VS Code. So, reach is not the word I wanted. So yeah, from these predefined lists, select one from each list, and then we say some of the groups have got a list of projects. So if the issue that you're looking at belongs to one of those projects within one of the groups, then you kind of don't even need to pass the LLM, so to speak. I guess arguably we could do that. We could pass that without sending it to the LLM and save ourselves some time and money. But I thought for now, let's just tell it that. And I've asked it to return like a JSON with the category, the existing category label, if it thinks it should be changed, the confidence of its deduction, etc. And slowly been sort of refining it a little bit. So sort of saying, well, if you've got a subtype, then obviously the type needs to kind of be the parent of that subtype. But if you can't find a subtype, don't worry about it. With the category, again, the group, the category you identify must match the group. And if not, don't worry about it. and I've said to ignore labels prefixed with automation because they might throw it off a bit. And then in the note field to sort of tell us if it has any observations. Um, so yeah, and like I pretty much just asked Duo or something to write the code. So it's really rough at the moment, but it does the job. So I thought let's just spend today half hour having a bit of a refactor, and then I'm just almost going to park it and see if somebody wants to take it on. Or if it's a terrible approach, and we'll we'll go from there.
Let me ask you this question. What other
Yeah.
models do you have available to you? The reason I ask that is one that is an instruct model would probably work better for this.
Good question. Let me just have a look. Don't even know how to press in. I'm not sure how I found this the other day. I think I was on like the Anthropic website, Anthropic models, maybe. So there's Claude Sonnet, Claude Haiku, Claude Opus. Um, oh, okay, interesting. So let me share this. Looks like there's actually this one. So it looks like there's actually different. So I don't know what you want to call them, different tools that all use the same models, but under the hood potentially. Um, but yeah, I would expect these to be the main, or maybe all five of these to be available options. What were you saying, Jim? There that it'd be called a
Like an instruct model. So like I know some of the other big ones are like the llama models and they have instruct in the name. Those
right
ones tend to be
Olama.
better at uh, listening to instructions versus some of the other ones which are more creative, for example.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, because we're not asking it to generate anything, right? And again, I'm not an AI. That's not really my. It's not my realm. But we're not asking it to really generate anything.
Right.
Um, so let's ask Duo. It's a dev container. It's still working in a dev container. We should find it. Are the Anthropic models? Lord, good. Right. Decision making. Okay, so they excel at generating human-like text, but they're also capable. So it sounds like it's not really their sort of forte or what they're designed for, but they're pretty good at it anyway. I hope that someone can plug in a different model reasonably easily if they wanted to anyway. The main thing
It
I
doesn't matter. It's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm certainly interested though. the one of the main pushbacks that I may find is that I'm using Ruby, and albeit that Ruby backending GitLab means that we've got a lot of Ruby devs. I know that it's not one of the primary languages used when doing AI stuff. That Python does tend to be. Hey, Diraj. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong.
Hey, hi. Yeah, hi.
Are you an AI expert?
Yeah, I mean, I just learned about this community pairing recently from Raman. I was like, hey, why not join this and see what's going on? So maybe
Awesome.
what are you both looking at? Maybe if I can.
Are you familiar with Tanuki-Stan?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, so I think there's a sort of desire to see if we can retire that and replace it with something that takes a slightly different approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest challenges with the existing solution is that it has to be trained. Albeit that I suppose I would argue that if somebody spent as much time as have already spent on this in like automating that training, it probably would be
Mm-hmm.
taken care of. But for one reason, I think as well, it's just I don't know what you'd call it, like handcrafted model and like doing a lot of grunt work that I guess there's like things off the shelf now, right, that are far more
Mm-hmm.
capable than something that we built from the ground up. So at the weekend, I was just poking around to see how quickly and easily I could write a little Ruby script that uses Anthropic to send
Mm-hmm.
issue titles and descriptions and ask for suggestions for the type, subtype, group, and category labels. And it seemed to work pretty well. I was going to kind of refactor it into something that looks a little bit more, not just a mess of methods randomly and arbitrarily kind of thrown together.
Right.
Maybe add some specs, etc. But I'm totally open. That's the beauty of these sessions. Like, if you've got ideas, if you think like it's not really worth spending any more time on it because we wouldn't do this in Ruby, or if you think there's probably a better model, or I saw William suggested that it might actually be something good for like an in-house model, but I have no idea how any of that stuff works. So
Yeah, I mean, and do you plan to build this as part of the product or like a separate project which can probably replace
I
Tanuki-Stan?
definitely think a separate project initially. The idea is be like a small stepping stone, a small iteration away from that. Hence, I guess why I thought of branding it as just Tanuki-Stan V2 to start with. It's just, slightly different by connecting to an off-the-shelf AI API that we could use. And then like to iterate on it, I guess it'd be amazing to make it part of the product. I don't quite know how we would. You would need to be able to configure it in a way, I guess, right? To be able to say, like, here are the, I don't know what you call it, like, here's a bunch of label groupings, which is what I've done
Mm.
in here by saying, like,
Right.
label groupings. Where did I do it? Here it is. So I kind of said like these are our type groupings and these are our subtypes and these are our areas and
So the
somewhere.
screen, sorry to interrupt, but the screen is just on the anthropic.com.
Oh, sorry. Let
Right?
me reshare. I've got too much open to
Yeah, yeah, like
chance to close. So
I was missing.
sorry. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we basically like this would have to be configurable, right, in some way
Right,
to be able
right.
to say, well, what are the labels that you want the AI to try and deduce? And if that's scoped, I guess it makes it a little bit easier, but still, you know, it could understand that it's only able to apply one of these, but having to be able to tell it, well, actually, like these scopes kind of like really it should be something like type,
Right.
type, and then it would know, hopefully, oh, well, you can't have one without the other. But I've had to sort of explain that to some extent. So yeah, if we were to build it as part of the product, I guess we'd need some way to configure it. But I mean, that would be awesome as a destination goal. And one of the beauties of that, I guess, is that it could suggest them as part of the issue creation process, and then there could be interaction rather than this being something that's run on a schedule. And at that point, you know,
Yep.
I don't know if this is a fairly safe assumption, but you create an issue a lot of the time to go in the backlog and then kind of forget about it, right, for years to come. So, but yeah, it was providing interesting output. And one of the things that I hadn't really considered is so looking at just the diff here, the output, like I've asked it to add a note as well, and I'm just trying to see if I can find that. Okay, so there's no note on this one, but there is a note on this one. So rather than enhancement. Okay, so that one's not hugely informative. Some of them were, though, you know, like to say, for example, this one was quite good that basically said, you know, somebody's used the issue template, but they haven't like populated it with any details.
Yeah.
So it's purely the title that we're making like assumptions about the labels for. So if over time we're able to use this better, and even like just to respond to the author and sort of say, oh, hang on a minute, like we've attempted to, but we really like there's just not enough information there. Maybe that's where the kind of generative part of the AI comes in a bit more intelligent, that it can actually sort of say, well, you know, I'm missing key information here to be able to make these deduction assumptions.
But this is good. Yeah, this is good progress.
I was happy with like what came out of it. And as I say, I don't have the capacity or intention of really like taking it a lot further. But I thought, you know, maybe just refactoring it to be a bit more, you know, put some tests in there, and then maybe somebody wants to take it further. But I don't know. I know AI. I think a lot of people find interesting, so I hope that might get a few people, interested, and especially if it is something where we use our own model. Not that I really understand what that means, but it's a good way of, you know, how we sometimes like build the product using the product, and that makes for good I don't know, content essentially, right? Rather than us making stuff up as we go along. Here's this thing that determines whether or not this cat is yours or not, as opposed to, you know, something that's actually a nice real world use case.
Right. Just one question.
Yeah.
Like this is not related to this, but have you, I'm sure you might have, but have you explored GitLab Duo to maybe if it is capable of figuring out the labels at the moment?
Yeah, I mean,
haven't.
essentially, as far as I understand, this basically is using GitLab Duo, if that makes sense. I suppose what you're saying is I'm bypassing it in a way because I'm going straight to Anthropic, but you're saying like I could potentially hit, would it be like the AI gateway that I'd have to hit to?
So what I meant is the Duo chat, like Duo, the GitLab Duo chat has context of each and every MR or issue where we try to look into it. And
Yeah,
if that
the,
has
the,
an information, yeah.
but how would we automate, like, so duo chat's great, but you've got to ask it the question and then it's going to give you an answer, whereas what we want
Right.
to do is programmatically ask it the question, get the answer, and then apply labels to. So I guess that's the, but it's very interesting because, yeah, like I think I'm kind of cutting out the middleman here and going straight to Anthropic, which I think that we use.
Mhm.
But
Right.
it might be that I could hit one of the duo endpoints and that adds some kind of context or does
Yeah.
something more intelligent. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is pretty similar to what we do in the code base. We use Anthropic and but like training data set, we already have a lot of context we probably set to our models. And so the reason I was referring to Duo Chat is the easy way to verify if you're on an MR or an issue and you ask Duo Chat, hey, do you have what kind of label should the issue have? And if
yeah.
it gives us a right one, probably Duo Chat already has that capability, and we could
Okay.
utilize our internal APIs
Okay. Yeah.
and fill it
Let's
part of the
try it.
app. Yeah.
Let's try it out of interest to see.
Yeah,
So
I didn't want to
oh.
distract you, but like just a thought out of
No, no, no,
maybe.
absolutely happy to poke around with it. So if I do this one, so I'll pick the one that said, "Oh, it was just using a template." I'll find where that was. Right, so I've got the issue. Browse, so I open that up. Yeah. So GH. Um, um,
I have a mixed feeling that it may or may not have context, but I was just curious to try it
no, no,
together.
it's a great. I'm interested too. Um,
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's certainly this seems promising, right?
Yeah, and this kind of so okay. Second one is
So
not
this
the group.
this is something that I had to tell Anthropic when in my Ruby, I had to specifically tell it to ignore this because it was thinking
Okay,
that
nice.
it was
Yeah,
thinking that it meant that
yeah,
this was something to do with machine learning rather than that
yeah,
we'd used machine learning to do something on there.
yeah.
This sheet doesn't have a clear group label without more context.
Nice. It
So
knows about group AI. Do we have a group AI?
I don't think we do. I don't think we do. Let's have a look. Um, no.
Oh, it's
So
yeah, correct. Yeah.
so
Not,
I mean, like essentially, as I was saying before, I think this is using the same underlying like engine
hmm.
anyway. So all I'm
Yeah.
really
Okay.
doing is providing it the context that I think would
Right.
be helpful. I choose from this list of labels. Here's some
Mm.
hints, like here's a label to ignore, etc. Um, but yeah, it's interesting, and again, like it's a really good question because building anything like this outside of the product is not insane, but like if other people can benefit from it as well and not have to run it and have to create
Yeah.
their own Anthropic accounts and pay etc.,
Yeah.
then great. But as a first inclination, so yeah, it's just had to guess, I guess, at least. But I'm impressed. I suspect this is like a standard, maybe that feature bug,
Mm.
and I don't know what
Maybe
the
you can
other
try another one on a bug. Let's see if it gives
yeah.
a little feature
Yeah.
bug, and then we can actually believe it
So
is.
the question is finding. So
Type bug,
we want.
maybe. Oh, yeah, we need not to have a label.
Yeah, ideally it wants to be one that hasn't got so all these are automatically created, so they've got all these labels already. I'm hoping there'll be one that a user has
Oh, maybe
created.
the first one on the top. Uh,
Yeah, that's pretty good. I
this
mean, the fact that
it
it's
has.
got possible bug in the title is pretty good, but let's try it anyway. So type bug looks good. No clear subtype. It's already got the group, so it realized that. It's already got the category, it realized that.
Oh, DevOps verify. Nice. Wow, I'm impressed that it was able to verify, like add DevOps verify. This
Yeah,
is,
yeah, absolutely. Considering marked as
and maybe you can
deprecated.
ask, like, can you give us a command to apply all this label? I mean, it would be easy to uh, throw that out.
Good.
Yeah, this much.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's
It's trying to, and to the best of my knowledge, that syntax doesn't. I like the idea, but I don't think that does the trick. That would be amusing. I'm going to try it for giggles. Um, that's it. So I can't even select it because it's already on there. So
oh, so probably it's yeah, it was probably removed. Oh, actually, it had already.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I didn't think it would do anything, but I tried it anyway. Um, yeah, it was optimistic, thinking that it could remove labels by just prefixing them with a minus. But so yeah, that's pretty much like what I guess I would be interested. I don't know how easy.
yeah, try
And
that out with your application and see if
yeah,
that's
exactly.
match.
Guess I need to. Where are we? I can maybe just modify my GraphQL query to instead do like ID or something like that. So I'm just hopping onto GraphQL Explorer to have a look what the parameters for issues. Yeah, do IID. So is that going to be in the numeric format? Yeah, I think so. I think that should work. It's a string, weirdly. So what's this saying? So agrees, bug, good. It's actually suggested a subtype.
Hmm, nice.
and it suggested backend. But then, as I say, I've kind of hinted, I've told it that ideally pick like either backend or front end or UX or documentation. There's bug with retry feature, bug function. Yeah, I mean, that sounds reasonable without digging too deep into it. Let's look at CI pipeline. The retry not working as expected. Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah, I mean, uh, do you actually, how do you provide, like, do you provide any context, further context to it? Like
So
apart from the graphical metadata?
no, really, all I'm providing was what was in here, which is like the title, description, the existing labels, and then this kind of array of grouped labels, if you were. And there was one more thing for the categories. So this is where like it goes a bit above and beyond, if that makes sense. Like where I was saying every time we rename one of our groups, like the existing Tanuki-Stan gets a bit upset or is still labeling things with the old groups. So that's part of the reason for sort of trying to build this. So this goes off to content fetch stages YAML. So it basically uses our kind of generated data about all of the categories and stages and groups and in here for a second. So yeah, it doesn't send all of this. It does only send the groups and categories within each group. So like import and integrate and then these categories within that. Possibly it would help to send some more information. I don't know, like the descriptions, but although that's a stage, so the stage isn't massively relevant. The group doesn't have a description by the looks of it. So, but I suspect there are other bits of information that we could feed it that might give it a bit more context. The other thing I've thought of in the past is information about the people as well. So if it's team members, like, you know, you can not, you can't assume, but you could sort of lean in certain directions. If certain persons created it, it might be that it's within that group. But yeah, I thought let's keep it fairly min initially, and go from there. So I realize we haven't got tons of time, but I'm just gonna see how sad Duo gets when I ask it to refactor for me. Okay, so it's saying to split it up to separate modules. Okay. I always tend to favor HTTP party as well. I don't know whether there's sort of pros and cons, or like I've just almost inherited that for some reason. So maybe there is no real reason to prefer it. Maybe it kind of passes JSON and does a few things automatically, so you don't have to. But yeah, I mean, this looks.
Yeah, this is good, I guess.
Yeah. Issues, add comments. Yeah, I quite like it, to be honest. Have you tried this yet? I think it's just going to stuff it all with the specifically the apply button.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it just randomly inserts Oh no, that's even weirder. I have no idea what that's done. That's really weird. Undo. Um, yeah, it'll be nice when it does actually, when it's able to do that. Um, so, so separator, error handling, dependency injection, container code, support classes need to be implemented separately. Nice. Do you use GitLab workflow yet? I wonder if that might be better at that tends to actually be able to create the files, and I don't think I've got it configured. Uh, works because set it up.
This project makes me think like how can we ever make this part of the product in a way that people outside GitLab can also utilize this because the current Tanuki-Stan is basically is all about how GitLab works, but maybe
Yeah,
every
so
organization has some
I,
or other.
I think I saw a really cool video a little while back where, again, like I haven't used any of the ML stuff, but it was sort of, I think it was a proof of concept. I don't think it's actually in the product, but like the idea that you can create your own sort of prompts, if that makes sense. I don't
Mhm.
quite understand how you were supposed to leverage those, but I think that's you need the ability to sort of tailor this to your needs, right? So at the I don't know what you want to call it. At minimum, you need to be able to say, well, what are your label groupings? So, like, which labels do you want it to pick from? And like in our scenario, we specifically want that to be dynamic. We don't want to hard code that. We want it to be pulled from like an API,
Right.
which makes it even more challenging, right? So I think that it's possible in the future, but I'm trying to think of what this is reminding me of a conversation I had with someone a while ago. So they want their CI to, for example, when they run a job, they want a drop
Hmm.
down that says which environment do you want to run this job against. And to populate that drop down, it calls like an API to get a list of environments. And my sort of thinking or concern with that is like, well, okay, so who's executing that API call, or where is it being executed from? And I don't think it's safe or realistic that the GitLab instance would be executing that API call to a, I don't know what you want to call it, completely arbitrary API.
Hmm.
I think that would be unsafe. So that you then need some kind of like runner or some kind of, and obviously it's not going to work like for that use case anyway, where you're on a UI and you want to select from a drop down from an environment. Like you can't wait for a runner to spin up and run it in an isolated environment, get the response, pass it, and bring it back, sort of thing. So this would be a similar one if we wanted to be able to use some kind of, I don't know if scripting language is the right phrase, but to be able to configure this and say, hey, like we want you to add a type label and an area and a group, and this is where you can pull these labels from. I suppose arguably the group labels are all in GitLab, so it should be able to identify those. But what it can't currently identify is the hierarchy where the categories belong to the groups.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it's that, it's the 10th iteration that would be possible
Yeah.
capable of doing that a long way down the line. But I think it should be doable.
Yeah, this
Um,
is this is actually doable, and I see a very good progress on it, and this definitely outsmarted the GitLab Duo chat. It's like in a way that you already provide those contexts and everything, and yeah, I like it so far. And maybe we can have we can have some sort of a bot running from this and try it out on certain new issues with certain labels, so we know that these are like probably internal issues, um, and not real customers, or if you want to go other way around.
That's a
And
good point actually. And let me flick back to Tanuki-Stan V1 because yeah, no, we do run it on all issues. You're right. I was trying to remember if we only did it on community issues and not on team member ones, but we do it on both. But one of my ideas was to actually combine. So somewhere in here, you can see the message. We actually sort of, I haven't like it's in read only mode essentially at the moment. But when it comes to like posting, I was sort of thinking of okay, well, we'll say thanks for creating the issue. We've used AI, and then if it came back with a note, then it would share the note and sort of say, here's what our AI has to say, and it would share some sort of questions or suggestions or whatever. Um, but then I've sort of combined it with I'll show you an example in a minute. We have GitLab Triage basically posts for community when issues are raised by the community. It posts what we call like a sort of self-help encouragement that sort of says like if you want us to look at this, like help us to label it. If you like we believe everyone can contribute and we'd love you to contribute. And like if you want to spin up an MR, you can reach out to, you know, this is again where my team comes in, like the contributor success side of things. So one of my thoughts, and I'll try and find an issue now and switch screen, was that it'd be nice to kind of combine those two things as well, rather than having
yeah, and there's way another idea comes to my mind. Like if we want to internally test it out before releasing it, maybe we can try internal notes, which are only visible to us,
yeah, yeah.
and we can go through them. I'm sure we'll be able to figure out what all the issues this bot has run, um, and commented, and we can manually go and verify how our bot is doing without worrying about whether it's correct or better or not.
Yeah.
So
I'm just trying to find all of these are team member. I'm sure there was one that was not team member mission. So this one's interesting actually because this one hasn't been processed.
hmm.
I'm not sure why that is. Trying to find, there was a community one in here somewhere, but I'm struggling to find. Maybe I changed the list. Again, I don't really know if there's a good way of. Oh yeah, we've got a label. That's how I'll be able to find it. Label is automation.
Automation now, oh yeah.
So this one I want to look at. So yeah, what I was thinking of as well, because one of our kind of things that both the community and probably even us as team members get a bit frustrated with is the amount of noise that we have on like issues and merge requests. So this is like, so Tanuki-Stan has kicked in. So the issue was raised a week ago at 5:45. And then this ran at 6 o'clock, and it added the group, it spouted some information, and then at pretty much the same time, I think, like, but coincidentally, 6 minutes later, our GitLab bot then posted this message to to basically encourage like self triage and everyone can contribute, etc. So I was thinking, well, if I can condense, like combine these at the same time, that might also be helpful. So we're sort of killing a few birds with one stone. But yeah, I think, as I say, my intention was I was only poking around over the weekend, but I thought if I can refactor it, and Duo's obviously done a really good job of kind of pushing me in the right direction to do that refactor it, add some tests, and then kind of push it out for someone to like, yeah, I guess the decision then is whether I enable it, as you say, whether it's on internal like team member only issues, or whether it's on both, whether we use internal notes. So like you say, we only have visibility or what, I don't know. But what someone really needs to do, and I'm almost certain that I won't be doing and don't have the capacity to do, is to compare the output, I think, with the initial, the V1, and sort of see if the data supports that it's you know, a higher success rate or a lower success rate. And fortunately, although I don't know if people are any good at using this, but we have this automation ML wrong. So if Tanuki-Stan gets things wrong, supposedly we add this label. So we should be able to see like the success rate of Tanuki-Stan and then do the same with V2. But it's quite a big job, right, to have this kind of A/B testing and then to analyze the data and like hopefully somebody. I don't know how these things normally work. It might be one where the people that are interested in this problem might form a bit of a working group to kind of chip away at it in a bit of I don't know what you want to call it, like a few spare cycles, if you know what I mean. But I don't expect, because this isn't planned work for anyone, which is the same thing as what's happened with Tanuki-Stan V1, right?
Yep.
It was spun up as let's do this, this will be really helpful, but then there's nobody to maintain it really. So we'll see though. It was fun for me kind of poking around and yeah, like other than using Duo, I don't really do any lower level AI stuff. So it was good fun.
I really appreciate it, and thank you for putting all the hard work on this. There's you like you rightly said, there is no dedicated maintainer for the original project. And it's like probably started as a hobby project, and then it worked out, um, and and then improving that. I'm sure it is taking a lot of efforts from you as well, and thank you for putting all the
Yeah, no
time.
worries. Thanks for joining. And like I'll there's a Slack channel and there's a project, etc. If you haven't already hopped on, feel free to hop on and stay abreast of hopefully updates to come, but we'll see.
Sure, happy to.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Dave, thank you.